Hi, I'm Jennifer Carter, and thank you for joining me on a podcast for parents, teachers, and administrators. Today's conversation should be a good one, and I'm sure it's something on your mind. So let's get to it. Hi, this is Mrs.C, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who's listened to my podcast. As you know, this podcast was started so that parents, teachers, and administrators could come together and hear each other about different perspectives and issues that come up with education. We don't get a lot of time to just sit down and talk and to listen. And I'm hoping that you're finding this experience of listening to the podcast as an opportunity to hear different perspectives. Sometimes you agree, sometimes you don't agree, but just to hear some different perspectives because we're all working really hard toward making sure that education is as efficacious and beneficial to young people as possible. When we talk about education on this podcast, we are really talking about education of everyone from birth all the way through adulthood, because we're constantly learning and we're constantly figuring out how do we best learn and then how do we put that learning into practice. So again, I just wanted to take a few minutes to say thank you. I also wanted to send a few shout outs to a few people. I want to send a shout out to all of the people who've made guest appearances on this podcast. Without you and your willingness to share your perspective and to also be really vulnerable, people have shared some things that really are personal and really things that are maybe struggles that they're dealing with, and they've shared them with me, which means they've shared them with you. So I want to thank folks for that bravery, and I also want to thank folks for that willingness to share, because we can all learn from that. The other people that I want to send a shout out to are the people at my schools. I wanted to send a shout out to Oak Tree Learning Center in San Bernardino, and a shout out to Oak Tree View Park Windsor Hills in Los Angeles, because they give me the opportunity to practice all of these ideas. Without having those schools and those parents and children and teachers, we can't really put a lot of this to practice. And so I have the opportunity to practice my curriculum with them, practice my teaching, practice my coaching, and also to help develop really strong academic programs. Without those teachers, without those kids, and without those families, I would not be able to do what I'm doing. And lastly, I want to send a shout out to Cindy Sanchez. She's my right-hand woman on the podcast. If you ever see a picture of me on social media, it's because she has forced me to do it. And I have to say thank you, because not many people would necessarily recognize that I'm an African-American woman, or that my business is owned by a woman, and that I can be a role model for people who are like me, who just kind of grew up just like a normal childhood and then have been able to do some pretty remarkable things with so much help and support. And it's because Cindy pushes me to tell that story and to put myself out there so that people know that they can relate to me firsthand from wherever experience they are coming from. So I want to thank her. We are going to set some goals for the coming year, and Cindy and I will be together to record a podcast next week, so you'll get to hear from her firsthand. I also want to thank our social media intern, Inara, who's been helping with some of the YouTube videos and also helping with some of the pins on Pinterest. So that's really all I wanted to say, was a lot of thank yous and a lot of acknowledgments. The year of 2020 can be seen as really difficult and challenging, but in my life and for what I've done, 2020 has been a tremendous benefit and a tremendous joy, because I've been able to connect with people I never would have without being forced to do so digitally. I've pushed the boundaries of who I am. I've explored my compassion and empathy in ways that I would not have had not been for this pandemic, the social unrest, and all of the divisiveness that came with it. So I want to send a shout out to 2020 for really helping me grow as a person, both professionally and personally. So with that, I want to say Merry Christmas. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, the 25th is going to be Christmas. But I also want to say have a good holiday, whatever you're celebrating, whoever you're celebrating with. Stay safe, and we will see you next week. If you like what you heard, or even if you have some feedback, put a comment in our comment section. Be sure to like our page and make sure that you subscribe so that you can hear when the next video comes out. Thanks so much again for joining us.